Good afternoon, folks. This is my presentation with regards to the social media strategic recommendation for the Aurora Flower Market. Let me give you a little bit of background about this company. It's a newly established startup, so started just in the month of March, which was founded and conceptualized by an event designer. It's a sole proprietorship business with the premise of being a retail e-commerce startup. It operates seasonally as a flower market from May until October, and its primary business objective is to support the local flower growers and florists, not to mention make a monthly donation to the Aurora Food Pantry. So it's a local business initiative within the town of Aurora and surrounding communities, most notably York Region. You might be asking why a flower market? Why now, especially during these difficult times, as everyone keeps saying? Well, the current conditions made it so that this company could be created. You have a lack of steady employment, there's a wavering state of economy, and the owner had a desire to help struggling farming businesses and community members, not to mention that she has a passion for flowers, so she thought, why not mix everything together? She also noticed that farmers were throwing out food and agriculture crops in early March due to the drastic decrease in food demand, and you were seeing this all over the news. In doing a little bit of research, she came across an article, and it was published by the Institute of Research for Public Policy. And essentially, it was highlighting the food insecurity that Canadians are facing as of now in existing and new populations. We understand what it is to donate to a food bank, but when people and communities are struggling to feed themselves, the idea of donating outside of their four walls becomes something that isn't possible. She'd also contacted the Aurora Food Pantry, and they did in fact confirm what she was fearing, which was that they were falling way short of their usual food and financial donations. Thinking about flowers and the retail economy, we did a little bit more research. Ultimately, we visited StatsCan and tried to identify what retail sales looked like in the age of COVID-19 and over, let's say, the last 3 months. Ultimately, it had indicated that retail spending was down by 26.4% in the month of April alone. Stats Canada also identified that a third of the retailers were closed during the month of April, on average for 8 days, and that e-commerce sales were strengthening in April. So companies were expanding their businesses online. Online orders in April represented about 10% of the total retail sales. So sales were growing, just not in the aggregate form that we're accustomed to, which means a retail store. It really is an online presence that people are moving towards. On the left, we have an article from the Globe and Mail, which was published, I believe it was the 23rd of May. It really just cites a few stats after a few interviews were conducted with flower growers and greenhouses around Ontario. It highlights the fact that more than half of the nationwide sales from floriculture and greenhouses are generated by Ontario's 180 producers. Moreover, many of the 60% of their annual revenue is generated between Easter and Mother's Day. So to think that we were closed during that time frame really indicates how much businesses, specifically farmers, greenhouses, what have you, were struggling. This upcoming video on YouTube, put forth by the Associated Free Press just about a month or so ago, really gives you an idea of what devastation is happening around the world when it comes to flowers and how they're having to get rid of them.
This is really the first time that we have to do this. The Dutch auction already exists for more than 100 years. And this is the first time that we are in such a crisis. At the moment, the growers are destroying the flowers at their nurseries. We think that maybe 70%, 80% of the total production is being demolished. We depend on the support of the Dutch government because otherwise a lot of companies, growers and trade companies will go bankrupt.
This is a pretty jarring video to see, but just to give you a bigger picture, think that this is happening all around the world with food as well. So you have crops that are being completely eradicated just because the demand has decreased so significantly in such a short amount of time. As we move on with a new business, we recognize that a startup has to identify what its problems are. We want to see if we can solve these problems, moving forward with strategic implementation as well as recommendations. While a startup has many goals to work towards, we're going to focus on 3 for the sake of this presentation. Most notably, the first one being creating brand awareness and recognition of the business, increasing the Aurora Flower Market's social media presence, and thirdly, driving an audience to the Aurora Flower Market's seasonal market website. The fourth one actually ties in quite closely to this because we need to identify and understand the audience that we're looking at. We need to know their demographic, their location, their hobbies, their associations, and where they buy flowers. We also need to understand how we can build local business partnerships. And lastly, we really want to make sure that we're making a monthly donation to the Aurora Food Pantry, thereby supporting local community initiatives. What really needs to be understood about putting forth any of these recommendations is that the Aurora Flower Market needs to focus on its PR and social media campaign in order to achieve its financial goals. Now, we're going to focus on a brand awareness framework using SMART objectives. The original goal was to convert social media-driven leads in 30 days via cross-channel campaigns. This isn't specific enough. It doesn't identify the channels that need to be used. It doesn't really address any of the internal or external challenges that the business owner will face, most notably an unpredictable economy, the application of learned resources within such a short time frame. We need to make sure that we avoid a social media rollout failure. We've reworked the goal into something very specific. We want to increase brand awareness by 15% by using a multi-layered approach and a social media strategy. This strategy includes Instagram, YouTube, Facebook ads, Google ads, and a monthly workshop tied into an email marketing campaign targeting women 25 and above, and chooses to inform our audience about local growers, florists, and partnered local businesses by October 2020. This is a mouthful, but it really hits on every note that we need to focus on in order to be successful from the onset. Keeping in mind that the Aurora Flower Market will be looping their resources. You have to optimize by planning, executing, measuring, and learning. You need to rework consistently in order for your implementation to be successful. From the brand awareness framework, we've used Hootsuite as a guide to identify our KPIs and solve our first 3 business goals. So the KPIs that will define our success are brand awareness, audience growth, post reach, potential reach, and social share of voice. Brand awareness is, most notably, the attention your brand gets across all social media during a specific reporting time and a specific time that yields statistically relevant data. We are going to focus on mentions, shares, and vanity metrics such as increase in likes and followers over a 30-day period and then through to October. And Hootsuite will be the brand monitoring tool of choice. Audience growth measures the speed at which your brand's following increases on social media. Our focus again will be Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Next, we have post reach, which denotes how many people have seen a post since it went live. Again, our focus, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Moving on to potential reach. This measures the number of people who could realistically see a post during a reporting period. We will use Awario, Hootsuite, Facebook, and Google Alerts in order to really capture this data and really understanding how to expand our audience. Lastly, we have social share of voice. This measures how many people are mentioning our brand on social media compared to our competitors. You have direct, which is at the Aurora Flower Market, and indirect, which is just the Aurora Flower Market. It's important that we remain visible and we want to be relevant and we want to know if our strategies are ultimately working. Rival IQ, Google Analytics, Facebook Analytics, Instagram Analytics, Twitter Analytics, all of these are great measuring tools. So we have a lot at our disposal in order to find out what our success rate and how it's being defined through our KPIs. Next, we're briefly just going to give you an idea of what our strategic implementation is. It's very simple as we move forward and easy to understand. We have decided to apply the PESO model, which is widely recognized. Under this model, you have paid, earned, shared, and owned media. Under paid, we planned on using social media ads, boosted content, and paid publishing. Under earned media, we plan on furthering a relationship that we already have with an influencer. Moving on to shared, we already have a charity tie-in with the Aurora Food Pantry, so community service will be easy to execute. And owned, we are going to be doing webinars that are going to be tied to an email marketing campaign. Subsequent to this, we've made the suggestion that the Aurora Flower Market ultimately pair with an external social media consultant. As it stands, as part of a partnership between the Government of Canada and the Province of Ontario, Digital Main Street is proud to announce 3 new programs to support businesses across Ontario. So this is a free consultancy that is being applied to businesses that are looking to pivot their models online. Ultimately, the Aurora Flower Market has already seen much success, and we will continue to invest time and money into the resources necessary to become a blooming e-commerce startup. Thank you very much, folks, and we'll see you soon. Take care.